7 of Star Wars with Meg. Today is a very highly requested video. We are going to talk about my favorite Star Wars book. These are the books that I think should be on your TBRs and what's on my TBR that I have yet to read, what's coming soon for Star Wars publishing, all that good stuff. I am very excited for this video because Star Wars books have become my world, and anytime I get to talk about something I'm that passionate about, I'm just excited. Let's get into it. I don't even know where to begin though, because there's really no rhyme or reason. A question I get asked a ton is, where should I start with Star Wars books? And I think this question comes from a place of people thinking that the books work the same way that the movies do, and that there's an order that you should read them in. When I talk about all of these books, I'll talk about the movies that I think you should watch before reading them. But essentially, the books are standalone books. So you have a character or a timeline or a group of people that you really like. There's probably a book to go along with that you can read at any point in time. You do not need to read any of these books in any type of order. The only books that have an order are the High Republic books, which I have done an entire video on reading order for the High Republic. Some of them are trilogies, so obviously like read part 1, 2, and 3 in order. For the most part, you can do whatever you want when it comes to Star Wars books. So I'm just gonna share a few of my favorites. Let's just actually begin by talking about the High Republic. I'm just gonna say a few things about the High Republic. First of all, I have the High Republic to thank for me reading any of these other Star Wars books. The High Republic, I had only read maybe 3 or 4 of these books before I started reading the High Republic, and the High Republic just sparked my love of reading, especially reading for Star Wars. I have the amazing team of authors behind the High Republic to thank for me becoming such a Star Wars bookworm, and a few of these authors actually wrote some of these other books that I will be sharing, so that's really exciting. You'll see I definitely have favorites. The High Republic has 3 phases, and you will start with Light of the Jedi, and that is what that looks like. Do this one first if you would like to dive into the High Republic. These books are incredible. They take place earlier than anything we've ever seen before in Star Wars, and it's just full of rich, amazing, diverse characters, and I have so many amazing things to say about it. I've already said all of that in a different video, so if the High Republic is a journey you would like to embark on, definitely watch that video. I will have it linked below. We are going to move on from the High Republic, because I could talk about it forever, but that is not the purpose of this video. If you want to hear about the High Republic, like I said again, watch that specific video. And in no particular order, let's just move through some of my other favorite Star Wars books. Starting with the Ahsoka book. I loved this book. This was the first ever Star Wars book I read, and the reason I read it is because I just love Ahsoka, and this is a really cool story. When it comes to this book, I definitely recommend that you have seen all of the Star Wars movies and all of the Clone Wars. This takes place after all of that, so you'll be pretty lost, and there will be tons of spoilers, so make sure you've seen everything. Fills in some gaps of her story, and I don't want to spoil too much, but there are some cameos that are really fun from other amazing characters. I remember at the time reading this, I loved it so much. I do not think this is the best Star Wars book ever written, but if you're an Ahsoka fan, you just have to read it. It's an easy, quick read. I think I read it in like 1.5 days, maybe just one day, honestly. I read it this way once, and then I listened to it a second time. Really cool about the audiobook for this one is that Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano, does it. So it's literally Ahsoka's actual voice that you hear reading it, and that adds like an extra layer to it. I definitely think I enjoyed the audiobook experience better than I enjoyed reading it, but it's obviously because of Ashley's voice. Definitely recommend this one to anyone who loves and knows Ahsoka. One that I absolutely love and recommend to every single prequels fan is Brotherhood. I think you should have seen the Clone Wars and all of the Skywalker trilogy before you read this one. This takes place in the prequel era. I mean, you can tell based on the cover, that is the age that Anakin and Obi-Wan are. There are some character cameos that you won't know unless you've seen the Clone Wars. A really good look at Anakin and Padme's relationship, and most of all, Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, which is why it's called Brotherhood. We know Anakin is keeping secrets from Obi-Wan at this point, and their relationship is a little fragile, but they still love each other like brothers. It's a really fun read, especially for prequels fans. Speaking of prequels, let's move into the Padme trilogy. This is not the first. This is the only one that I have in print form right now. Queen's Peril is the first book, and this one was really fun because it's all about Padme before she's queen. It starts with like the day she gets elected as queen. You get to see her pick her handmaidens, and it kind of is like Padme before she's in love with Anakin, which I find to be a much more interesting Padme, and it ends up running parallel with The Phantom Menace at the end. So if you are a prequels girly, definitely pick up this Padme trilogy. Then you move into Queen's Shadow for this cover, which this is the one that I know more. This book takes place right after she finishes being queen and right before she decides to become senator. Once again, this is before Anakin really romantically comes back into her life, and it's just so cool to see her strategize and her handmaidens strategize, and to see her relationship with her handmaidens. And Sabe especially is a standout character in this trilogy, and I want there to be like a Sabe movie. Like, I need Sabe. I need everything from Sabe. That's the character that Qi'ra Knightley actually plays in the movies. So that would just be so cool. And Queen's Shadow leads into Queen's Hope, which is where Anakin gets involved. So obviously it's a little romantic, and it's just really cool. You get to see their wedding, which is amazing, like from their POVs, which is a much more eventful day than we ever would know from the movies. The epilogues are also so amazing on these books. They always gave me chills. So yeah, Queen's Hope is the third one. So it goes Queen's Peril, Queen's Shadow, Queen's Hope. At least that's the order that I would read them in. I will say I'm someone who's always liked Padme. I'm not ever someone who's been obsessed with Padme. And these definitely help to like bridge the gap to make me like really, really love Padme as a character, because I just learned so much more about her and I respect her so much more. So I'm sure you've heard about the Padme trilogy. It's worth the hype. I read all three of them in January because I could not stop. E.K. Johnston did a fabulous job with all three of these books, and I highly recommend. Next up, we're going to talk about the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn, and wow, I could not put this trilogy down. I've lent all of my Thrawn books to friends or family, so this is the first one, and this one is just called Thrawn, and it is such good backstory on one of Star Wars' best villains ever. If you don't know who Thrawn is, don't read this. Watch everything that leads up to Star Wars Rebels, and then watch Star Wars Rebels before you read any of the Thrawn trilogy. Like, for sure, you just won't care. I don't think you'll care. I don't think you'll enjoy it. You have got to know Thrawn as a character and the Rebels before you will appreciate the series the way it deserves to be appreciated. You learn so much about his motivations and why he behaves the way that he does. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a really, really good read. And then Thrawn leads into Thrawn Alliances. This is the cover for Thrawn Alliances, and yes, that is Darth Vader on the cover, because this book was so cool. It runs two different timelines. Thrawn, Anakin, and Padme are together on Batuu, which is so many amazingly cool things in one. And then Thrawn and Darth Vader in the future together. Thrawn knows that Vader is Anakin, essentially, but like Vader is trying to pretend like he's never met Thrawn before, so he's like battling with that. It bounces back and forth between those timelines where Thrawn was with Anakin and Padme, and Thrawn is now with Vader. So it's really cool to see the way that plays out. It was just so cool. I especially loved the setting being on Batuu, because I just love learning more about Batuu and like Galaxy's Edge. I get really excited about this one. I think I enjoyed the second the best, but I don't know that that's a popular opinion. And then we move on to Thrawn Treason, which was a really cool read as well, though I will say probably my least favorite of the three, but you have to finish out a trilogy, and it was still a really good book. The other two were like groundbreaking for me. It really leads up to kind of like the final moments of Rebels, so that's pretty cool to just see his state of mind and what else he was going through during Rebels that like the show couldn't really touch on, because the show obviously focuses a lot more on the Ghost Crew, which I'm so happy for. But then I'm also so happy that this book exists to kind of show us what's going on in Thrawn's mind and what's going on in his world around all of that. So really, really cool. I also have to say it really shines a light on how insane Governor Pryce is. If you know, you know, but you will love these books if you love Star Wars Rebels and you are a big fan of Thrawn like I am. Moving on to Princess Leia stories. Bloodline, I just finished like last week, the most recent one I have finished, and I loved this story. Leia's like in her late 40s in this book. She's still married to Han. It tells you where Chewie is and just kind of like what they're all doing in this timeline. It's before the sequels begin. Ben Solo is being trained by Luke Skywalker at this point. It does not touch a lot on that, just that we know they're together and Leia does not hear from them like ever. It's very, very political, but not done in a way that's like, because let me back up a little bit. We just talked about the Thrawn books, and Thrawn is a strategizer. He is very, very intelligent, and Timothy Zahn must also be just like Thrawn, because some of the stuff he wrote went right over my head. It didn't really matter in terms of the story as far as I could tell, but some of the strategizing and like the ship maneuvering and the plans and all that went right over my head. So I will say this book is political, but not in the same way that Thrawn is, and none of it was like hard to understand at all. Introduces a very, very interesting set of characters, some that show up in the sequel trilogy, some that don't, and I really, really liked this one. A lot of this was a surprise to me, like about this time in her life. A surprise in just the fact that I didn't know, not that it didn't seem fitting for her. She is an incredible character, and this book really solidifies that, as if we needed that. But it's just, I want every single moment of Leia's life filled in a book or TV show, because she is, I think, one of the most interesting Star Wars characters that exists, and I feel like she just doesn't get the attention she deserves because she's outshined by Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. Leia is so interesting, and she just continues to inspire me. Every new thing I learn about her, I love. And I really recommend this book, especially if you're like a sequels fan, because it's really cool just to kind of see what leads into the state of the galaxy in the sequels. This ends with telling you sort of the beginning of where the Resistance came from. And while I have my praises to sing for Bloodline and the way Claudia Gray writes Leia in this book, Claudia Gray also wrote Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and this has to be top. Maybe someday I'll make a ranking video, but I'd say in my top 3 most favorite Star Wars books I've ever read. This one made me weep many times. Everything I said about Leia from the Bloodline book holds true to this. This is Leia before Alderaan blows up. This is Leia before Episode 4. This is like Leia's prequel. And she was one heck of an amazing teenager. It shows you so much about how amazing her parents were. You get to see just how amazing of a dad Bail Organa was. It shows you how amazing of a mother Bria Organa was, and just how loving of a family she had. You get to see her first love, her first boyfriend. It's really good. Insight on Leia that I just love getting. I've said so many times, and I'll say it again. I want a Leia show about her childhood, or more books, something, please, because she's the most interesting character. I know I'm like probably biased because I just love her so much. Originals fans, Leia fans, you have to read this book. You won't be upset by a single thing. Nothing about her character is ruined or changed or anything like that. Like, it is amazing info about how she grew up. So much about Alderaan, which is actually kind of devastating knowing what happens to Alderaan, but it's such a good book. It's one that I think I'll probably be rereading once or twice a year. It's that good. Claudia Gray is one of my favorite authors from the High Republic, so it doesn't surprise me that Claudia Gray wrote those 2 Leia books that I loved so much. There's just something about the way Claudia Gray writes a character. Like, she just gets it, and I love her writing. Moving on to another one of my favorite Star Wars girlies, who's super underrated and not talked about enough. Qi'ra. I didn't add for this one, and I am so grateful that it was sent to me because I loved this book. A bit intense, detailed descriptions on brutality and all of the things Qi'ra went through after Han escaped and she didn't. So definitely you would have to see Solo, A Star Wars Story, the movie, before reading this book to understand. She was Han Solo's first love, and Han Solo was her first love, and they were trying to escape together, and he makes it, but she doesn't, and this is kind of what happens to her. We see her in Solo doing pretty well. She's worked her way up, but this is kind of like her beginnings of life without Han after he escapes and she gets caught trying to escape but doesn't. I don't feel like I really thought about everything that she must have gone through, but girlie went through a lot. Like a lot, and so it helps you understand her character a ton, and I just think she's incredible. I think all of Star Wars characters are incredible. I feel like I've said it a ton, but this is a really good window into everything that she did to become who she is in Solo. I maybe found some of the decisions she made in Solo a little hard to support, but after reading this, I understand her so much more, and I get why she did the things that she did, without spoiling anything. Definitely recommend reading this if you're a Qi'ra fan, or you just really liked Solo, or you'd just like to know more about her. It was a really good read. And then I think the last one I want to talk about that I have read is the Black Spire book by Delilah Dawson. This is a sequels era book, and it takes place on Batu, and it's all about Vi Moradi, who actually walks around in Galaxy's Edge, which I think is so cool. She's in nothing but this book, and she's walking around Galaxy's Edge, and I feel like nobody really knows who she is because not enough people have read this book, but her name is Vi, and she's an amazing member of the Resistance, and you just get to see her story. Like the Qi'ra book, it's a little visual in the fight. I love feeling like I know so much about Galaxy's Edge because of this book, so definitely feel like if you are a Disney Parks fan, you should read this book. You'll know who Vi is, and you'll know so much more about the area than so many other people do, which is always fun. I honestly hope that there's more to Vi's story and that there will be sequels to this because it's really, really cool. I think they should sell this in the parks. I don't know why they don't promote this better because they have the character in the parks. And she's really cool. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. The Galaxy's Edge Black Spire book is the last one that I'm going to be recommending today that I have read and loved. I am still kind of fairly new, even though this was a lot of books. I feel like there are still so many that I have not gotten to read, which is so exciting to me, and there's always new ones coming out. So I thought I'd spend a little bit of time at the end of this video talking about books on my TBR and also the book that I'm currently reading, because I'm always reading one, and right now I'm reading A New Dawn, which, yes, that is Kanan and Hera on the cover. I actually have waited this long to read this, but there's reason for this. Definitely watch Star Wars Rebels before you go ahead and read this. And I'm about halfway through. I thought it would be a good little treat yourself thing for me to do for Valentine's Day this year. These are two of my most favorite characters in the entire Star Wars universe. I'm eating every second of this up. Kanan and Hera just met for the first time in this book. I can't speak on the ending. However, I do feel like I can confidently say this is going to be in my top 5 favorite Star Wars books of all time. And is that just due to my attachment to these two characters? Yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on this when I'm finished, I update my Goodreads every time I finish a book. So if we're not friends or if you're not following me on Goodreads, what are you doing? I will link my Goodreads below as well. I give every book a rating. I write every book a review. I'm pretty active over there, and I accept all friend requests on there as well because why not? Yeah, this is what I'm currently reading. I do already know what my next read will be once I finish this one, and that will be what's in this box that I actually just received from Star Wars. So I thought we could unbox this book together. I've already read a synopsis on it, so I am very thrilled about what this book is. And then we can discuss it. What? Envelope says that it's private and confidential information compiled by Senator Bail Organa. I think in Oravesh it says clearance required. Oh my gosh, this is really cool. It has Bail, Mon Mothma, and Saw Gerrera on the card. And it has Mon Mothma sitting, I think, in the Senate on the back. Mon Mothma and Bail are very present in the Padme and the Leia books, which are the ones I'm most freshly off reading. So this book could not be coming out at a more exciting time. Little annotation items. And this is actually signed by the author. Every moment is a choice I choose to live, and I choose to act. And that's a quote from this book. It's called Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear. It says, before the rebellion, the Empire reigned. On the back, with one speech and thunderous applause, Chancellor Palpatine brought the era of the Republic crashing down. In its place rose the Galactic Empire. Across the galaxy, people rejoiced and celebrated the end of war and the promises of tomorrow, but that tomorrow was a lie. Instead, the galaxy became twisted by the cruelty and fear of the Emperor's rule. During that terrifying first year of tyranny, Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera, and Bail Organa faced the encroaching darkness. One day, they will be 3 architects of the Rebel Alliance, but first, each must find purpose and direction in a changing galaxy, while harboring their own secrets, fears, and hopes for a future that may never come unless they act. One reason why I'm so excited about this is because this is my favorite era of Star Wars. The Rise of the Rebellion is just a facet of Star Wars that I am the most attached to, so this is super exciting. I find Mon Mothma and Bail and Saw Gerrera to be very intriguing characters, and because Andor is coming out in April, and Mon Mothma is a big part of Andor Season 1, and there's a lot of questions I have about her decision making in Andor, and so this might be a really cool background on her behavior for that. So I think this is a really good timing for this to be coming out, and I'm so grateful that it was sent to me because I was going to buy it anyway. And this will be next on my TBR. And if you want to see the review on this, I will definitely be updating it on my Goodreads. I believe it comes out on February 25th, so I have it a little bit early, which is so exciting. And you know what? Let's open the envelope now that we have an idea of what's going on here. Jedi Temple Archives. Okay. Clear forgery, but how? Were the Separatists involved? So this is them trying to get to the bottom of what happened on Order 66, if I had to guess. And they're obviously trying to come to the defense of the Jedi. That's so cool. I feel like I'm like part of the mystery here. There's also a highlighter and a pen in here, and the pen lights up. I also was sent a while ago Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss, and do not hate me for this. I am not Mace Windu's biggest fan after watching the Clone Wars. I think he's pretty cool and awesome in the prequels, but in the Clone Wars, I feel like everything revealed about his character makes me not truly like him. Like, this is not a person I would sit in a room with and enjoy the company of, though I would respect, if that makes sense. I don't like the way he treated Anakin. I don't like the way he treated Ahsoka, especially when he calls her citizen in the Clone Wars. Like, I can see why he did that, but like, also it was rude and uncalled for, and he's not my fave because of that. I think he's a little bit of a jerk. So I have not been I haven't been anticipating reading this, but I do want to read it, especially because it's not only about Mace Windu. It's got a lot of the prequel characters in it on my bookshelf, so I will read it eventually. So this is one that's on my TBR. I know there are so many Mace Windu lovers in the world, so I had to show this one off. Another one on my TBR for this year is The Princess and the Scoundrel. This one also be a good Valentine's Day February read. I believe this one revolves around their wedding and their honeymoon and the Halcyon, which is what the Star Cruiser was based off of at Disney World. So I just know that's one I'm gonna love. I love Leia, I love Han. It's like my favorite era of Star Wars. I'm an originals girly, so definitely want to read that one. I've also recently announced that a Bad Batch book is coming out this year. If you try to pre-order it, I'm trying to pre-order it right now on Amazon. It says it will be delivered on August 5th, so it's an early August release, and this is the cover. I'm absolutely thrilled to see that there's more Bad Batch coming. The Batch must remember that the only way they succeed, the only way they survive to fight another day, is by trusting each other. Spoilers from the Bad Batch series coming in 3, 2, 1. Tech is still alive in this book. All of the members are together on, it looks like they're on Pabu, fighting from the Empire. They're with Fi, so this is really cool to get more story on what this point of their life was like. This is the first Bad Batch book, and oh, I'm so excited to read this one. The High Republic commences this summer with 3 more final books of the High Republic, which I'm so sad about. So those are obviously all on my TBR. Of the 3 High Republic books that are coming out this year, we have Into the Light. This cover was just revealed. That is Wreath Silas on there. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm really excited about Into the Light. Into the Dark is actually one of my most favorite books of all time by Claudia Gray, and Into the Light, I'm assuming will maybe wrap up Wreath Silas's story-ish, and it's also by Claudia Gray, and I just find that very poetic, as Star Wars tends to be very poetic. I'm very terrified, but I'm really excited about Into the Light. That release date is April 1st, so it's coming very soon. The second High Republic book that's coming out is called A Valiant Vow, which is by Justina Ireland, and this one comes out on May 6th, which is kind of crazy because she has a Vernestra Rowe book coming out on the same day. The same author. So that's May 6th is a big day for her and for the High Republic. And then the very final that we know of so far, High Republic book to come out is coming out on June 17th. And it is called Trials of the Jedi. And that's the cover that's been most recently revealed to us, and it'll wrap everything up for the High Republic. So if you're a High Republic reader, we have got to chat about it. I will be reading all of this the second it comes out, and I cannot believe that the High Republic is ending. However, another book that's coming out is based off of Vernestra Rwoh from The Acolyte and the High Republic. So it's not necessarily in the timeline of the original High Republic phases, but it is about Vernestra Rwoh, who is from the High Republic. If you've seen The Acolyte, you'll know that Vernestra is in The Acolyte. She's kind of a mysterious character in The Acolyte, and she looks a lot different than the character that we see in the original High Republic books. So this book is supposed to kind of like bridge the gap, explain sort of some of her behavior in The Acolyte, so I'm really excited about that, and that one comes out on May 6th. And it's by Justina Ireland, who has been in charge a lot of Vernestra's character. I believe she wrote the very first... Yeah, she wrote A Test of Courage. It was the first book Vernestra really kind of was the star of. She knows Vernestra's character from her being introduced for the very first time, essentially. So I'm really excited to see how she bridges that gap. So like I said, that one comes out on May 6th. There's also another Acolyte-centered book about Jecki and Yord coming out. I believe they're on the cover at least. And it's called The Crystal Crown. It's written by Tessa Gratton, who is also a High Republic author. So I love that they're keeping the Acolyte era High Republic books within the original High Republic authors, because they write about it better than anyone else could. And that comes out on July 29th, 2025. I believe that's kind of the furthest we know about Star Wars books coming out this year, and I'm excited for so many of them, which is... I just love that feeling. But while I will be very busy reading all of the new books that are coming out, I know there's a plethora of Star Wars books that I haven't even read or heard about or talked to anybody about. So if you have favorites that I haven't mentioned, or if any of the ones I've mentioned are ones that you've really liked, please comment down below, because I'm always adding to my list of books to be read. I really hope that this video has inspired you and made it feel not scary at all to enter the world of Star Wars books. Add me on Goodreads to keep up with whatever I'm reading. I'll also do my best to try and update, a reading list on Star Wars with Meg whenever I can. Thank you so much for sitting through this video where I am just talking and talking about Star Wars books. I hope that you added some to your TBR, and I hope you'll add some to my TBR in the comments below. And I hope you guys have an amazing couple of days ahead until I see you again. Happy reading, may the Force be with you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!